Why is a country with no tequila heritage planting millions of blue agave plants in the middle of the desert? How is a spirit once tied to Aztec culture being recreated with technology in Australia? If agave plants take 6 to 8 years to mature, why did Australia choose them instead of easier-to-harvest crops? And could Australian-produced agave spirits threaten the centuries-old position of traditional tequila? Until now, the blue agave plant has been almost synonymous with Mexico, and tequila is something that couldn't be replicated. But now, in a place no one would have expected, Australia is building an entirely different agave spirits industry. No festivals needed, no jimadoris needed, and they don't even need to call it tequila. This video will take you on a journey to discover why did Australia choose to plant blue agave, a plant that takes nearly a decade to harvest. How are they farming, monitoring, and producing it amidst a dry climate and modern agricultural technology? And is Australia's modern agave industry capable of rewriting how the world understands spirits made from blue agave? Don't be quick to assume this is just a copycat version, because the deeper you go, the more you'll see. Australia isn't just remaking tequila. They are rebuilding the entire ecosystem of a plant that seemed unchanging. The blue agave plant is not a short-term crop. It doesn't bring quick revenue. It's not common. It's not easy to sell. It even takes up to 8 years to harvest, under harsh conditions, drought, and is almost impossible to cultivate with the support of traditional pesticides or fertilizers. So why did Australia, a country already famous for wine, beef, and wheat, choose blue agave as a new direction? The first reason: opportunity from the global craze called tequila. In the last 5 years, the global agave spirits market has exploded, especially in the US, which consumes over 70% of the world's tequila. Premium brands like Don Julio, Clase Azul, Patron are being valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. And the surprising thing is, demand is increasing so fast that Mexico is starting to run short on supply. In this context, Australia saw a strategic opportunity to provide alternative raw materials and products, but in their own way. The second reason: Australia's dry climate is precisely the advantage. Regions like the Northern Territory, Queensland, and Western Australia already have a semi-arid climate. Intense sun, little rain, conditions that are extremely ideal for growing blue agave on a large scale. Instead of struggling with traditional crops under drought conditions and poor soil, blue agave becomes a sustainable agricultural solution for hard-to-cultivate areas. When many countries are still trying to find an answer to the question, what to grow that is both drought-tolerant and provides long-term economic value, Australia has chosen an answer that isn't easy, but is full of potential. Betting on a plant that takes 8 years to mature, with the belief that the future of agave spirits doesn't solely lie in Mexico. It's not a coincidence, but a decision based on the market, climate, and a long-term vision for the next generation of agriculture. While Mexico is trying to protect tequila as a national heritage, Australia chooses to build a separate industry, without argument, just developing. And perhaps the most interesting thing about this story is, how are they doing it? If you've ever imagined an agave field in Jalisco, where jimadores with curved knives chop each plant under the scorching sun, step by step following tradition, then set that image aside for a moment. In Australia, blue agave plants still need growers, but no one needs to carry tradition with them. Here, every farming decision starts with data, and the agave plants are not cared for using generational experience either. In regions like Queensland and the Northern Territory, where the sun can reach 40 degrees Celsius and the total rainfall for the year isn't enough to fill 2 hands, the blue agave fields are laid out using GPS positioning systems, stretching across hundreds of hectares, divided into farming lots like a digital map. No one is constantly watching, but they are certainly not neglected. Sensors embedded in the soil continuously measure moisture levels, temperature, root growth rate, and surface growth. The entire drip irrigation system, activated only when indicators show a deficit threshold, helps save up to 70% of water compared to traditional models. Data from each cluster of plants is sent to the operations center, where AI will predict which areas need intervention, which areas have excess water, and which areas are likely to be damaged by pests or diseases. No need for farming engineers to constantly be out in the fields. The entire farm is operated like an open-air factory, but it doesn't miss a beat. And when harvest season arrives, it's not the sight of Jimadores cutting each plant by hand like in Jalisco. In Australia, this process is planned months in advance, based on growth data, monitored by sensors, satellites, and AI. On the farming map, each plant area is marked according to the ideal maturity threshold, plant age, soil conditions, and projected sugar levels. Thanks to this, the operations team can divide the harvest area into batches, not cutting indiscriminately, only harvesting plants that meet the standard. Currently, the blue agave harvesting process in Australia is being transitioned from manual methods to mechanization. Top Shelf International is developing specialized harvesting machinery, combined with drone technology to identify plants ready for harvest. Although not yet fully automated, this is a significant step in modernizing the blue agave industry in Australia. In Mexico, each agave plant is treated as part of a culture. In Australia, each agave plant is a data point on a farming map. This approach might make many people uneasy because it's cold, not romantic, doesn't carry the smell of soil, sweat, or traditional rhythms. But let's look directly at the reality. With extreme climate, increasingly scarce labor, and the goal of sustainable production, Australia is showing a simple truth. To produce on a large scale, you have to farm as a system. In Jalisco, the agave cores after harvest are baked in earthen ovens, a process that takes 2 to 3 days. Each cooking batch is a time when the senses are engaged. The smell of smoke, the char color, the softness of the core. Each traditional producer has their own secret, not written down, only passed down. And in Australia? No earthen ovens, no wood smoke, no legends, just recycling equipment, high-pressure steam, and time counted by a digital clock. At Top Shelf International's TSI Eden Lassie Farm, the harvested agave cores are placed into steam chambers. The cooking process takes about 72 hours, using no wood or fire, helping to control temperature and ensure even cooking across batches. Once the threshold is reached, the cores are pressed using high-capacity roller mills, then passed through a continuous flow filtration system to extract the pure agave juice. The machine used is a modified wine press, a type originally used in the grape wine industry, now adjusted to suit the fibrous structure of blue agave. This allows the extracted juice to retain its natural sweet flavor, without requiring high compression force. The extraction process is automated, using a roller system and continuous flow filters, ensuring consistency and preventing variations between batches as seen in manual production. Next, fermentation is no longer natural. It's defined by data. TSI collaborates with the University of Adelaide to develop the fermentation process. Fermentation yeast strains are selected in a lab, ensuring stable sugar digestion rates and no production of byproduct toxins. The entire fermentation process is monitored by sensors. Temperature, pH, reaction time, all are synchronized to a central dashboard. There are no longer good batches and bad batches like in manual production. There is no fluctuation in flavor by season or weather. This is when the process moves to the distillation and bottling stage, done entirely using stainless steel systems, similar to the high-end industrial vodka or whiskey industry. The raw spirit is passed through a 2 to 3 column stainless steel distillation system removing impurities with export-grade precision. Bottling is done using a cold filling line. The first bottle and the 100,000th bottle are identical down to the last milliliter. All data, from cooking temperature, sugar content, fermentation rate, distillation time, is stored by batch, like an industrial product serial number. TSI even implemented an NFT system, where customers can track their agave plant, from planting to bottling. For Mexicans, every drop of tequila is a heritage. For Australians, every drop of agave is a standardized product. It's a long-term dryland agricultural development journey, betting on a difficult plant, a new product, and a market facing supply shortages. This isn't the story of a revolution. This is the story of a beginning, with data, technology, and a touch of Australian daring. In Mexico, to be called tequila, a bottle must comply with dozens of strict regulations. From the agave species, blue agave, the growing region must be in one of the 5 recognized states, to the baking, pressing, and distillation processes, all must match the globally protected geographical indication, GI certification. This regulation has helped protect the name for over 200 years. But for Australia, there is no right to use the word tequila. There are no recognized growing regions. There is no production control board. But that is precisely a door to go a different way. Australia's strategy isn't to imitate, but to branch out into a new industry. They don't compete with traditional tequila. Instead, they position their product as Australian Agave Spirit. This name doesn't violate Mexico's protection, but it's clear enough to position the product. They don't copy the Aztec story. They build their own identity. More importantly, it allows Australia to escape traditional expectations. Agave spirits made from high-tech farms, precise production lines, and purity controlled by data. No need to rely on the image of jimadores or old brick ovens. Instead, Australia chooses to tell its own story. A country with arid land, choosing to grow agave as a strategic native plant. A spirits production based on data, sensors, and precision. A supply chain controlled from the farm to the bottle, capable of meeting high standards for export. While most countries are still riding on the coattails of the tequila name to find their place, Australia is actively forging its own path, not chasing a title, not borrowing images, focusing on one single thing: building an industry that can be scaled, is stable, and can lead the market in its own way. And most importantly, the market doesn't need a name, the market needs stability. Tequila is facing a supply-demand crisis. The price of agave plants in Jalisco has increased 5-fold in just 6 years. Some large producers have had to reduce their 100% agave percentage to maintain profitability. Meanwhile, agave farms in Australia can expand to thousands of hectares, with lower costs, less risk, and are not constrained by heritage or associations. In the 21st century, sometimes the leader isn't the one who makes the loudest claims. It's the one who quietly builds a robust enough ecosystem, so that when demand explodes, they are ready to shape the game. Tequila is an icon, but Australian agave could also be the future. Mexico preserves the soul of agave. Australia gives agave a new industrial body. So what do you choose? Will the world accept a spirit that has no famous name but boasts industrial precision? Or do we still need sweat, red soil, and generational stories for the value of an agricultural product? Share your perspective, because sometimes Just one drop of alcohol can prompt questions about how we make food in the future.